Welcome to the live streaming of Book City for the event Vivere nel mondo dell'imprevedibile, to live in an unpredictable world. This evening we are with the philosopher of uncertainty. It's very easy to introduce a famous and special guest as Professor Nassim Nicholas Taleb, essayist of many books about uncertainty. Would you like to say hello to Italy in Italian?
Sì, io parlo poco di italiano e sono molto onorato di essere qui. So I can speak some Italian, but of course, not when you intimidate me with your fluency.
Yes. Firstly, where are you? Are you in Atlanta or New York?
In Atlanta adesso.
Yes.
Hiding from COVID, because in New York, to go out to dinner, you need to dress as if you were climbing Mount Everest, because you get cold outside in the restaurants. So I'm in Atlanta where the weather is better. You can eat outside.
Yes, and are you in lockdown? In fact, we are living in a kind of soft lockdown in Italy.
I'm in lockdown in the sense that I wear masks everywhere and I stay away from closed spaces. So in that sense, you are in the lockdown. You don't need functionally to have a formal lockdown if people comply with these rules.
So, okay, is dinner time in Italy, lunchtime in East Coast, and today we have a lot of books, and I created analogy, to describe the new era of uncertainty, and it was incertoscene, in Italian, attrezzarsi, the fusion between uncertain and Anthropocene. So we are living in incertocene.
Now we've been living in the incertoscene since since the Bronze Age. You see, so we've had a lot of developments then. The problem with uncertainty, you always think that your times are less predictable than that of your ancestors.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's the same thing. It's just like a lot of things happen, and the past is vastly more filtered than the present.
Yeah. So all the era of humankind is uncertain.
Exactly. But I want to say something. When people say, "Oh, uncertainty, COVID," I say, do you have a library? Did you ever hear of Boccaccio, for example? I'm not talking about other authors, okay? I mean, so a pandemic, or what you call epidemic, is something very common that has, so for anyone who knows history, okay, should not be surprised. As a matter of fact, the only surprising thing that took so long for it to happen. To me, the black swan was the fact that we didn't have any big problem between around the First World War, between what they call the Spanish flu and today. Okay.
Yeah.
So, in fact, you should be having more because we have a lot more connectivity than before.
Yeah. We know. Nassim, although you didn't publish a new book during this period, you decided to republish all of your works under one title, Uncertain, in Italian, Impatto. Yesterday, during my dinner, I was curious and I weighed them. In the Italian edition, the weight is 2.5 kilos of books.
Okay.
Is the weight of uncertainty.
Yeah, no, here it's 5 kilos for the formal version.
5 kilos in the US edition.
Exactly. Yeah. So what happened is that after finishing the Black Swan, Cigno Nero, finishing the Black Swan, I decided, to continue to start the inserto.
Yeah.
So it was already announced as part of an inserto, and we published here 4 books together. And now there are 5 in the US. And now there's also a technical inserto. There's a technical inserto, volume 1, and there are going to be 5 volumes, technical.
Okay. And what inspired this decision to republish all your works?
It was from the beginning, from the Cigno Nero. At the end of the Cigno Nero, I realized it was not finished.
Yeah.
So, and it's easier to write one book rather than write a lot of things. You see, when people say, "Oh, you have no idea, no book," I say, "Never had any idea. I have one idea and I have one book. It's the inserto, and the technical papers are part of the technical inserto. So it makes life very easy. It's just one book."
Yes, one book.
Sorry.
Yes. And sorry, the second question is very easy.
Yes.
But I guess the answer is more complicated. Is future completely unreadable in your vision?
No. I mean, what you have to do is what we did with COVID, for example, is a prime example of it. With an Italian collaborator, Pasquale Cirillo.
Yeah.
He's so we when COVID came, we said, okay, we are going to map things based on how much they depend on rare events, hence the degree of unpredictability associated with them. The first one was wars. The second one is pandemics. And then you can see also innovation would be probably the third one, and so forth. So there are things that are predictable. Okay, they are basins that should humanity survive, some things must happen, and things are predictable, but there are things that are not predictable. For example, the weather is more predictable than the climate. You see, scientifically, the climate includes some nonlinearities that makes things complicated. But so if you start ranking things in terms of environment, what we call mediocristan versus extremistan? Extremistan is where events are dominated by extremes. So there are a lot of pockets of predictability, but you cannot naively assume that you can project the future naively, as an extension of the past without some kind of wisdom. Our ancestors understood things. You see, they understood that you had pandemics. They had lazarettos everywhere. They understood that. Our ancestors understood a lot of things, and they didn't make, a scientific claim about the future. They knew that how to handle, unpredictability very, very well. I mean, I'm talking for the past, ever since we have recorded documents for the past 2,500 years.
So Google is a good example of black swan.
Well, I mean, something completely unpredictable that you don't see coming, okay? And when it happens, you start understanding the logic after it happens, but prospectively, you don't see it. So it is prospectively unpredictable, retrospectively predictable. Google is definitely not Google. The internet, all that revolution we have, is definitely an unpredictable event. But pandemics, no, very, very predictable, and their effect even more predictable, because we know that we're much more fragile to pandemics today than they were in Genoa in 1381, for example. Okay, in Genova in 1381, or in Venice in 1550. Okay, they were a lot better at handling pandemics than we are today, and that's a problem of modernity.
I know that is very famous, but could you remind us why you chose the image of black swan to describe your idea of uncertainty?
Okay, so it's a Roman poet, and Cigno Nero was supposed to be something very rare. And so the idea was associated with an expression. A Roman expression is as rare as a black swan, but then there've been a lot of uses of the metaphor in logic. In other words, no matter how many white swan you see, you cannot confirm the absence of black swan. You can disconfirm you can disconfirm, not confirm. You cannot say there are no black swans. So there's a logical problem with black swan, was a certain asymmetry handled from the ancients, I mean, from Sextus Empiricus, even before Terence. Okay, so the idea of asymmetry, that there's statements you can make in the absence of evidence versus evidence of absence, is present, and it's mapped. The statistical scientific aspect of it was not mapped. In other words,
Yeah.
when I first wrote my book, I received a compliment, which was an insult at the same time. That they say in science, we talk about things that exist. You're talking about something that doesn't exist. Okay. And I was grasping to describe things that don't say, okay, it plays a large role in our lives, it's the biggest role in our lives, yet it does not exist because you can, for a scientist, you cannot map it scientifically. So that was the hardest task, where both insults and compliments were compliments in that task. Is that let's start talking and thinking in terms of what doesn't exist of high impact. You see? So you start separating domains statistically, with some domains where what you don't see can happen, or because the extreme can happen, but of no consequence. And I call that mediocristan. And then a domain like Extremistan, where what happens, not only, what is of large consequences, right, but of also can have an existential threat. So when you start rigorously mapping them, then you're contributing to help people understand the problem and how to make decisions under uncertainty. You see, what is it that we don't understand and make decisions? Someone asked me to summarize the inserto standing on one leg. Okay, like of course Rabbi Hillel was asked, or there are many episodes of history where you have to summarize back everything, and Rabbi Hillel has summarized the scriptures as do to others what you don't want them to do to you, and the rest is commentary. So I tried to summarize the inserto, and it came up after writing, right, for these 2,500 pages. And as you say, in Italy, it's like 3 kilos almost, okay?
Yeah.
So after writing, or here is 5 kilos because it's hardcover, and okay, after writing 5 kilos of pages, I figured out that it's as follows, okay? It's much, much easier to make decisions, okay, under uncertainty than under certainty. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. And the best example is, Massimo, you want to fly to New York. You go to the airport and they tell you the pilot is maybe drunk. We're not certain. What do you do? Easy decision, okay?
No drunk.
Someone tells you, you go to a restaurant, seller tells you, I'm not sure if the water is polluted. There's uncertainty about what do? You don't drink it, right? You ask for wine, for anything purified, not for it. So decision making. So you generalize that and you get the idea of the inserto. But it took me, as I said, 5 kilos, right, of books to be able to express the idea.
Yeah, I forgot to remind that your Italian publisher is Il Saggiatore. This is very important. And okay, in your books, you wrote that we need to split negative black swan from positive one. Why we undervalue positive black swan too?
Oh no, because you have no idea. Let's say, when you want to think of the future, okay, say you want to figure out what innovations will be brought in. Into the future, you tend to populate the future with what you have in mind it should look like. But in fact, if you know how the future will be, and that was the central idea of Karl Popper, not, the black swan was not the specialty of Popper, that was the one, that to understand the future, you need tools from the future. And if you have these tools, then you already have the innovation, you see? So, and then what I'm saying is a lot of the innovations, I mean, I don't know if they're good or not, positive, but I assume they are positive, okay, like the internet or like a lot of things. Some things are unconditionally positive, like penicillin or like that. But I mean, but the central idea is not the black swan. Mi non piace troppo. The cigno nero. I like the idea of antifragile. That how systems react to disorder, how you react to these classes of disorder when you classify. Because I explained that if I am if I have more upside than downside, okay, then surprises on average will be good for me. Then therefore unpredictability will be good for me. If I'm fragile, I will have more downside than upside. Then unpredictability will harm me. Which is what so you put yourself in positions like trial and error. You see, when they're looking for drugs or anything, they have trial and error. They have no idea what they're going to get, but they know that it's either going to be good or neutral or small cost. So this kind of equipment all right, this kind of positioning you need, okay, to face uncertainty can be generalized. And this is what I call the anti-fragile, where in fact you are positive to the unknown because it can harm you little, or it can you can do very well. Like, for example, if the market collapses, you either lose 100,000 euros or make 10 million, right? So, I mean, on balance, you're going to have that. So you position yourself to benefit from randomness and luck. And there are classes of businesses that do that, namely innovation. You see, where you think you have trial and error, errore,
Yeah.
discovery, then più errore. You see, so this is where I'm talking. A positive black swan for me, for a pharma company, is something like Viagra. They did not know that they're going to find a blockbuster drug, you know, that would improve the lives of men age 91 and plus. All right, they did not know that. They thought that they were doing something that would make money by providing, you know, some benefits to people who have high blood pressure.
Yeah.
So this is the idea of how you position yourself to uncertainty.
Yeah. This is anti-fragile, and I was surprised to discover you quoted Corriere della Sera in Anti-Fragile.
Oh, really?
I don't know if yes.
Now I remember. It was some an American economist.
An Italian anecdote with the Italian publisher.
I see. Okay, but also I quoted in the center of the Cigno Nero is around Dino Buzzati's Il Deserto dei Tartari. Okay,
Il Deserto dei Tartari.
And I mentioned there that he was a journalist at the Corriere della Sera.
Yeah.
So there you mentioned twice, I think, in the inserto. I don't know if it's mentioned, and I can add it if you want.
Yeah. And in our last interview for Corriere della Sera, we spoke about the power of uncertainty. Could you explain to us how to transform uncertainty into a positive point of view?
No.
The subtitle of Antifragile in Italian is Prosperare nel disordine.
Okay, so for example, I was an option trader, and the center of the inserto is anti-fragile. Yeah. Before that, it was like preparation or something. Okay, and the idea of I was an option trader. Okay, so I would trade packages, financial packages that benefited from disorder, from volatility. So I realized there are things that benefit from disorder. If on average you do better when you're right than you lose when you're wrong. You see, the best thing that benefits from disorder is evolution. To give you an idea, let us say that you have parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis when no sexual, boring. I know it's boring, but no sexual reproduction. All right.
Yeah.
So basically, you're replicating a copy of yourself every time. All right. Now, how evolution occurs is when you make a mistake. Okay, it's like sending a fax machine to Milan, from New York to Milan, and the fax machine makes a mistake. It's blurred, and the instructions are read incorrectly. Okay, that's a mistake. No, okay. What happens now if the mistake is positive? Okay, you have more fitness, and if a mistake is negative, the offspring doesn't survive. So you generate, offspring with mistakes once in a while. So these mistakes are the mutations are mistakes. Okay, so basically that's one example of environment. Okay, in which some organism can benefit from uncertainty in reproduction. You see, so this is the adaptation, the classical adaptation helped by the mistake rate. Now the problem is if you have too high a mistake rate, you lose back the previous benefits. So you need to have an error rate that is high, but not too high. Okay, ma non troppo. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you see, ma non troppo. So you have to have an error rate. So that mistake rate is what's central in the reproduction of organism. So that's why I'll give you an example. I mean, there's another one in you make mistakes, as with companies. Sometimes you discover something new. Okay, the central error is that the mistakes don't cost you much. So when I used to buy a financial option, if I'm wrong, it costs me little, you see? And once in a while I make a loss. So what I'm saying is that research is like trial and error, you see? So if the uncertainty is asymmetric to you, then you are in a position that's anti-fragile up to a point. That's one idea.
So nature is uncertainty.
Okay, and then the other thing is, how do organisms deal with the environment? Okay, the organisms deal with the environment via stressors. You see, so because they don't know what the environment will look like, so they upregulate. When you have a stressor, they also upregulate. It's part of the same ensemble of things. So now I've stopped writing, for general public stuff, and I've been writing scientific papers, okay, progressively. And now most of my focus now is on mapping that notion of antifragility as what I call phylostochasticity. You like stochasticity, you like errors, you like randomness, you like things like that. They're all under the same group. I'm trying to map it and finish, that work. In parallel to the inserto, there is the technical inserto.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting that a lot of things that benefit from disorder can be mathematically mapped the same way. Okay.
Yeah.
And what you call disorder, if you benefit from disorder, you benefit from time. Let's take the opposite of something that gained from disorder. This glass of water. Okay.
Yeah.
If there's an earthquake, it's not going to be helped. There's no benefit for it. So that's fragile. The opposite, if you're more likely to benefit, okay, than be harmed, then you're anti-fragile. That's what the difference. So you end up better off, just like evolution ends up better off for that organism after that mistake. Not for the individual, but for the organism. You see, that's what I call how people react to stressors. And likewise, the same filtering happens, say, restaurants in New York City before COVID, okay? You have a high bankruptcy rate, was basically the engine. It's the second highest bankruptcy rate in the world, the restaurant business. The highest is technology, of course. And the bankruptcy rate was driving the business. And the higher the bankruptcy rate, typically the healthier the industry as a whole. And it's also good for the individual because you go bust early, then you do again in a very dynamic industry, you see.
Yeah. So, Nassim, let's humor ourselves for a second. Since Biden's win was largely unexpected, would you consider him a black swan?
No. Something that's, to me, a black swan is something that's given zero probability. You see, not something that's given
only zero probability.
Or 45. No, it has to be, because you don't imagine it. Either given zero probability or acting as if it had zero probability. You see, the minute you start assigning proper things, then it's not. A lot of events are not a black swan. Pandemics are not a black swan. But something like, and the expected events coming from it may be a black swan. Like nobody would have expected that the festivals now would have a new renaissance as an online things.
Yeah.
Okay. And then another aspect of the black swan, central, is that a black swan for the turkey, for the takin.
Yeah.
It's not a black swan for the butcher.
Takin, yes.
Yeah. It's not a black swan for the butcher. You see? Likewise, when I tell people it's September 11th a black swan, definitely for me and definitely for people in a building. Was September 11 a black swan for the pilots, for the people flying those planes, for the terrorists? No, I mean, they were doing it. So what I'm saying is that uncertainty depends on what you know. It's not an objective definition.
Yeah.
It depends on the set of knowledge, by the person, you see. So if you have a prophet around, I don't know if you have any in Milan, okay, but I can't find any in Atlanta, a bearded prophet and stuff like that, who reads for her or him, some events in the future will not be black swans. But for us, because we don't have the tools analytically or the information, okay, there would be a black swan. So this is why I say the black swan for the butcher is not a black swan for the turkey. The black swan for the turkey is not a black swan for the butcher.
Yeah, We understand. Nassim, you was a trader, and starting from 17th century with tulip mania, investor, everyone seems to love the thrill of uncertainty. My question for you is, how can we build a black swan robust society? You wrote that Italy is an example of robust society.
Okay, decentralization. Unfortunately, Italy has been centralizing over the past. I'm becoming quite familiar with the structure of Italy, and I upset a lot of people when I talk about it, because I remember reading an article on Italian unification by Umberto Eco, and saying a great thing. If you look at what happened in the 500 years before unification, how many people died in Italian wars? Okay, the numbers were quite low, but you had a lot of wars. So it was unstable, but a lot of wars, because a lot of them were condottieri, they were professionals, and of course, not a lot of wars. World War I, okay, 680,000 Italians died. So in that war. So what happened is that the centralization makes things smooth and then causes problems to be more perverse and deeper. Okay, and for example, Italy had a lot of political turmoil, but very distributed. Okay, if it was like Greece, centralized, Greece around Athens, you would have had a coup. When it was fashionable to have coups, 60s and 70s, but you didn't have one because it's too distributed, so too decentralized. And the strength of Italy is that it is decentralized. It has all its history. It was decentralized, and when Rome was Rome, it was also decentralized. I mean, I'm a Roman citizen. I was, for 700 years from, when you took the Levant, 700 years, and then later on under the Ottoman Empire, they tried to recreate the Roman citizen. It's very decentralized. So you have city-states is a very robust model, can handle shocks, but of course you need some kind of coordination between city-states. But the nation states became fashionable after the defeat of Napoleon. Okay, and so after the Congress of Vienna, 1814, 15, something, started becoming the idea that you have to deal with the nation states as big structure. You see, and that idea led to what we know. You see. A lot of tensions, some calm, and then a lot of tensions, the nation state. But city-states are much more robust, and you know about it. You can have, Italy can be a nation composed of city-states, you see?
Yeah.
That idea that you must have a nation-state is bizarre. Look at Switzerland. Switzerland is a nation of city-states. Okay, not even city-states, tiny canton states, even smaller than city-states. You see, so that brings some stability. People don't realize it creates a lot of political noise. And I remember one day I was in Washington and I was writing The Black Swan.
Yeah.
And I gave a lecture on predictability to a bunch of bureaucrats. But then I quizzed them. I told them there's two countries I'm gonna compare. I said one country had the same government for 40 years, no change, everything's okay. The other country has something like 40 government over the same periods since the war, so over 50 years. Which country is more stable? Everybody thought the first one was. Okay, and then the first one was Syria, and the second one was Italy. And last time I checked, you can check outside, still standing. Italy is still standing. So what I'm saying is that political turmoil is not necessarily bad, okay? The problem is a centralized thing that collapses altogether. And as a matter of fact, for companies, the best indicator of future bankruptcy is steady income.
Okay.
Because it means that you're relying on a very steady contract. Not if you have noisy, it's fluctuat net mergitur, you see. If you have one like this, it's like Syria. A government, puff, the whole thing collapses.
Okay.
Or Saudi Arabia, same government, and then what happens collapses. Or Libya. You have examples of stability, pseudo-stability. So the idea is to detect these pseudo-stabilities and figure out, what's going to break, And I made it my sort of my hobby to find pseudo stabilities.
Why did you learn Italian?
Perché piace la lingua, il sole e la cultura. I mean, this is beautiful language, beautiful. It's much, much better than, I mean, I know other Romance languages, but it's the most beautiful. I mean, it's, and as a Mediterranean, it's my duty to learn Italian. It's the closest thing to Latin, okay? So instead of learning Latin, I'm not going to go learn Romansh in Switzerland, so Italian. And the food, of course, and the quality of the films and the literature, la letteratura.
Yeah. I know that you love to read books in Italian. What is your favorite Italian book?
I said Alberto dei Tartari, of course, but I've read. But you know, you don't go. I go. Oh, this book. They're books that are pleasant. So it's like people are pleasant to hang around with. You see, they're not. You know, you're not. They don't like shock you, and they're pleasant. It's like people, you know. And one of them is Alberto Moravia. I read all his books, Alberto Moravia. Unfortunately, not in Italian. And I like just the atmosphere that you find in his books, his characters, and of course, you know, the other authors. But I like to read. I mean, when I read an Italian author, I feel it comes to me as my sensibility, because I'm Christian Mediterranean, or Lebanese, which is as Mediterranean as you can get, you see. So we're still part of the West and part of the Mediterranean as can get. So this is why you have this sense, you know, I feel, you know, I can understand it, you see.
Yeah. Sorry, in the bed of Procustes, this is your book, you wrote an aphorism, and I have the Italian version, and in the Italian version is: non fidarti di un uomo che abbia bisogno di un reddito, a meno che non si tratti di un salario minimo. I hope to translate correctly. Don't trust a man who need an income, except if it is minimum wage.
Yes, okay. Because that's the problem with the people you can buy, okay? Because if you're making minimum wage, and this is for me an argument, if you want to free people, give them a minimum wage, you know, guaranteed basic income.
Yeah.
Because anybody who wants to make a salary, say they hit a point where they're 45.
You know that in Italy we have a guaranteed amount also for the unemployed.
I know, but do you have it for life?
We call it citizenship income.
I see. Okay, so it is like, I mean, even Milton Friedman on the right was an advocate of what he called negative tax. If you make zero, you get tax money, and then, okay, anyway. So the idea is that people who have a salary to protect are trapped into a lifestyle. And so they make enough money to have the goods they want, and then if they lose that high income, then they lose their status around them. Their neighbors would see that, and then they need to have the nice car, the nice vacation, the nice villa, the nice all that. So this is how you can trap people. You give them enough money, but not enough to be independent. Okay, whereas a taxi driver is independent. She or he can have any opinion. You see, they want, so there's a difference. So that group of people in the middle class is very dangerous politically and many things, because they can go with something that they know is patently wrong, but they want to preserve their job. And you notice that that middle class effect is most pronounced in places like England, for example.
Yeah.
Or they have that conformism, and but they're afraid. They're afraid. I mean, I look in academia, I see tons of people, they're afraid of opening their mouth. Okay, they're afraid.
I understand. But what do you think about the guaranteed income to fight technological unemployment?
Well, to me, the good thing about guaranteed income, it needs to be there, but not too high. There to floor people, but not too high to disincentivize them, you see?
Yeah.
So, and then also against that, they must prove to get the guaranteed income, they're engaged in some activity. Okay, say, okay, I'm learning something. I'm taking classes online on Coursera. Okay, then guaranteed income. So you should help people grow out of dependence, but give them a floor in case they fail. Guaranteed income is mostly important for people to become entrepreneurs, because if you fail, that you have something to support you. So it makes you take financial risks. We need risk takers in society.
Yeah. You are a famous math aficionado, and as you know, there are many people who are promoting the importance of science and STEM courses for the younger generation. What is your opinion about this? Sorry.
My opinion is, okay, the young generation, they should have the tools, but let them do what they like. You see? It's like in the mafia in New York, the way it works. They say it works on Wall Street. There's a boss, the capo. Okay.
Yeah.
So you do something for you and something for the capo. All right.
Yeah.
So in other words, and it's just to do something for the system and something for themselves. But you should let them find their own taste, because
it's the same in Italy.
Okay. So the educational system in Europe, or my days, was rigid, and then you had to follow all these benchmarks, and if you don't fit that benchmark, you can't do science. You have to do something else. Okay, you should let people grow, and also you have some of the effect of late bloomers, people who become go to mathematics at a later age. Like I started trading, and then I came to mathematics via trading. Okay. Because before that, I didn't see the connection. I didn't see why it was important. Once I realized what I needed, I went back to mathematics. It was a complete different dynamics from the one you would have just sitting down and someone give you abstract stuff that you have no idea, okay, how it motivates you. It bores you. I mean, my theory, I was largely an autodidact in many things, even in languages. Nobody taught me Italian. I would just pick it up. So unstructured, but you follow your own thing that doesn't bore you. So if you teach people to follow something that doesn't bore them, they can go a long way into picking up things. Yeah.
Coming back to your books, you wrote a lot about your story, life, experience, work. Are Inserto also a kind of autobiography?
Well, I said it. I described the Inserto as a combination of autobiography, tales, because I have Yevgenia Krasnov. I have fictional characters. I have Tony Grosso, Fat Tony, a complete fictional character. I have Nero Tulip, Il Tulipano Nero Tulip. Okay, I have so I have all these people, right? In my I have fictional characters. I have scientific discourse. Then I have some autobiographical part, not too much. Okay. And then I have discussions on philosophy, and then right after finance. So people were confused by it. When I started writing the first, which is Fooled by Randomness, I forgot how it's translated in Italian. The first volume of the Inserto came in 2001, almost 20 years ago. It was, I forgot the title in Italian, the first one. What's the title in Italian?
Giocati dal caso, perhaps.
Okay, yeah, because there are 42 languages, so I can't really remember the title. Yeah. Okay. When I wrote that one, the publisher didn't want to publish it. They said, if you're writing in finance, you should put some graphs. If you're writing philosophy, you should remove the finance. If you're writing your autobiography, you should remove fictional characters. So, and I told them, get lost. I'm writing on my own terms. Okay. And then they said it's going to fail. There's not a single publisher who said it was going to fail. And they all, of course, were wrong because it didn't fail. It was immediate hit and sustained. Same thing with Ichino Nero, started putting characters in it. Same comments. So you write on your own terms. So I discovered that I'm not obligated. I don't want to tell you that I'm writing a novel or a tales or scientific meditation. I just write a book. That's it. like, I'm not obligated because nobody's paying me a salary. Okay. So, and if you want to buy the book, you buy the book. If you don't want to buy a book, no problemo. Okay. Buy some other book. There are plenty of books. All right. So that was my attitude throughout. And people.
Yeah, it's your personal style. Yeah.
You write on your own terms. Okay. So, and this is again, and I've noticed if people who, take advice from publishers and others start writing like the New York Times. Well, you read one or you read another, you can't tell the difference between two authors. Whereas with me, you take a page, immediately it's me, you see?
Yeah.
So I have attitude problem, I have this, I have that. Sometimes I'm nice, sometimes I'm rude, sometimes I'm happy, sometimes it's my problem, all right? So you do it on your own terms, okay?
Yeah.
So that's the idea. So I'm not hurting anybody by doing it that way. And then people told me there's not enough. The science needs to be formalized. I said this is 500 pages formalization, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So but on a side.
Nassim, books on your bedside table. What are you reading now?
Okay, I just reordered because in Atlanta I don't have the thing. I have. I'm reading a history of Iran. Okay, this is on my desk now, by a friend of mine, Michael Bonner, of the Sassanids. A very, very interesting period in history. The Romans and the Sassanids, they had wars. Okay, and then they got weak, and then the Arabs took over. Okay, I'm reading that one. I'm reading some stuff in Hebrew to try to improve my Hebrew. And I'm reading History of Private Life. I reordered now because in Atlanta I don't have a copy. The History of Private Life. I mean, just like the Bourdieu type Jules Verne, where you don't go through history of the leaders, but the history of the regular people. Okay, so usually I read history for pleasure, typically, or something like that.
Yeah. My suggestion today is very easy, is to read Incerto in Italian, Antifragile, Il letto di Procuste, Giocati dal caso, Il cigno nero, Rischiare grosso, and Robustezza and Fragilità.
Robustezza e fragilità.
Yeah.
Is the appendix of the Black Swan. In America, it's part of the Black Swan. But in Italy, they like things differently.
We split it, yes.
Yeah, I wrote the Black Swan, then I increased it, second edition, with an appendix that was part of the book, but not in Italy.
Yes, I have the last question for you, and
yes.
We have some minutes. The anti-fragile and science. Do we need a new scientific method too? I'm thinking about Galileo Galilei.
I mean, I don't know. I do a lot of scientific research for pleasure or for something, and I tell you one thing: I like the system the way it is. I don't like universities, but I like the peer review system. That you have to follow some kind of rigor.
Yeah.
You see? So, although in my books I write the way I want, when I write science, I like to prove. Okay, mathematical proof. I enjoy that. Theorem proof. I like that. Okay, so I do that. So, and to me, there's a lot of rigor in mathematics, a lot of rigor in physics. There's zero rigor in psychology. So people start ape the scientific method without the rigor in it, and zero rigor in economics, or very little. I mean, the papers are rigorous, but if you change an assumption, the whole thing blows up. So this is but there are a lot. I mean, I like science to be rigorous, following the great models of STEM science, not this other thing. I like literature and I like STEM. I don't like that crap in between. This,
yeah.
I don't want to say the word in Italian. Shock, but that.
Yeah, divulgazione, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, for your availability and to have been with us. And we wait for you in Italy.
La prossima volta parliamo in italiano. ok? Solo in italiano, ok?
Perfect. We wait for you.
Sì.
Thank you very much, and thank you Il Saggiatore and Book City too.
Grazie Book City, grazie Saggiatore, grazie Massimo, grazie a tutti. Ciao.
Bye bye.